Stand, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone on this kind of dreary fall evening. And we know that you all want to go home and watch the Chiefs, or at least some of you do, but we do have some business to take care of. So I'll call the meeting to order and ask the council, has anyone have any concerns or desires to change anything on the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
Go ahead. Kevin seconds it.
Sorry.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion passes. With regard to the matters on the consent agenda, anyone have any concerns, desires to change, or any issues with the minutes? If not, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Baxa seconds. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes. With regard to warrants and payroll, any questions about those, either of those?
I have one question. On page 4, it's about clear at the bottom, almost at the bottom of the page to the magnetic flow tube. Is that for the water plant?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I kind of assumed it was, but
Anything else?
that's all I have on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants in the amount of $47,068.79 and payroll in the amount of $42,555.11. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Folks, this is the opportunity to comment on matters that are on this meeting's agenda. The things that are on here are all pretty self-explanatory. Anyone wish to comment on agenda items before we get into possible action on them? Seeing no one respond, we'll move on. Mark, we'll go to you with regard to, we had, of course, a representative from the league with regard to a search for a city administrator. You want to pick it up from there?
Sure. Last week, John Dudoff from the League of Kansas Municipalities made a presentation to provide headhunting services to help you hire a new city administrator. They sent their standard agreement. The fee is $7,738.77 plus out-of-pocket expense. I'd anticipate that number could be up to $5,000, depending on who the finalists may be, where they're living, and things like that. So I'd say $10,000 to $12,000, but this would formalize that agreement. And again, John made he provided information on his, the league last meeting.
I'll just, with regard to that, I'll make my statement, and then we can, anyone that wants to be heard with regard to it at all, feel free to speak up. I just think this is a crucial decision that we have to make, and it's not one that we can make lightly or try to do quick or try to do cheap. I would rather spend that money on something concrete that we would be able to see and have and say, oh, we have this new thing or whatever. But I would love the help of professionals to help guide us to the right person for Marion at this time. So even though, gulp a little bit at the cost, if I think about what they're going to be doing for us, I don't see how I could justify saying it ought to be cheaper. So that's where I stand on it, but I'll just maybe start with you, Tim. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I really kind of agree too. I think that the position that we're in right now, not the most favorable community really for people looking for employment with that position, I think. And just having all the help we can get to get in the right person and someone that's going to do a good job is something I really think we need to stress and have professional help getting that done.
If you don't have anything to say, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I would agree with what both of you said. It's kind of their their alley of expertise, so to speak, as far as contacts, and they've done that before and kind of know what to look for and maybe more important, what not to look for. So yeah, I'm all in favor of that.
Any comments?
The only thing, I guess, just as a kind of a note again, is one thing I really like about what's in here is the guarantee that they have that if the candidate that we find through them either voluntarily leaves or is terminated for cause, that they would redo the search at no cost to the city, with the exception of the travel expenses or whatever.
That was
but as far as
within
the
1
league
year,
goes-
I believe,
Yeah, 1
correct?
year, yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have no problem with it.
Anything, Mark, you want to add to
No,
what you've already said?
I know he's done, the league's done multiple, I know John's done, I'd say 7 to 8 or something like that, I forgot what he said, but he's well known. He's past president of the league, very active in the organization, so I think he'll have some contacts also.
Well, just to get the ball rolling, and I'm going to make a motion that we authorize Mark to contact the league and enter us into, or accept their proposal for an agreement for them to assist us in the search for a new city administrator. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion, comments?
There was one thing on here that it's not major, but they want 50% of the cost paid up front. It's fine. And he'd mentioned it will probably take 16 to 18 weeks to hire, is what he would anticipate. However, they also have the option to submit invoice for the rest of the payment December 30th.
I
for
called John at that same
accounting
question.
purposes.
He said what that would meant to me was for any advertising cost or anything at that time. Because like he talked about, they would probably, with the holiday coming up, they probably wouldn't interview till January. So that would be any advertising cost and
Okay.
things like that, the minor costs. The rest would be at the end of the project.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone? I'm going to, if there's no further discussion, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of entering into the agreement as per my motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. So, Mark, if you would get a hold of the league or Mr. Deerdoff, whichever
Will
it
do.
is. Okay, thank you. Next matter on the agenda is the food truck ordinance. You should all have a clean copy of what was prepared for us. For those out there who might be confused, by the way, I'll just point out that Byron Lang did not prepare our food truck ordinance. Byron Lang is not our city attorney. I know that's out there, and a lot of people, or some people, were very puzzled by it, but Brian Bina is our city attorney, and he prepared our ordinance. One thing, if you would go to the next to the last page that I would just throw out before we go into further discussion. Top of the, they're not numbered, but it'd be
There's sections.
right above section 3, so part of section 2. It provides that we will have an inspection done of the food truck before a permit is granted. In some parts of the city ordinance with regard to other things, not this, it provides that the city attorney, the chief of police is to do that. I talked to Mark because my thought was that we have an option, and now that we have James on board full-time, and James, this is going to be catching you completely off guard, but the neighborhood services director, I mean, part of what James does is inspections, not for the same things that we'd be doing with here, but we need to fill that blank with someone. So, thoughts?
I mean, my mind went to James on it.
Zach's not here, is he, to defend himself?
Or to volunteer.
Or volunteer, yeah.
To me, James would be the logical choice, but then the backup in his absence would be the chief of police, I would think, or someone designated through the chief of police to make that inspection.
What would you think, Mark, if we said that the neighborhood services director, chief of police, or other city employee as designated by the city administrator?
That'd be fine.
That would allow as individual that fill those roles change and jobs evolve, would give some flexibility.
Plus, it makes it more available for someone coming in and someone's absent
Yeah.
to get it done without saying, well, sorry, we can't, gotta follow what it says to expedite the process.
And it does kind of say that under 4, doesn't it?
Four is more
Yeah, it
the
really does.
enforcement,
It
yeah,
really does.
essentially.
So basically what we'd be saying here would be consistent with 4.
Section 4.
Okay. Okay. I also noticed that, and very small thing, but easily corrected, section 6 is not bold. All the other section headings are in bold, so we'll want to make sure we change that, but no biggie there. So, thoughts, gentlemen? Any other, I will ask you to vote on that amendment that we just talked about, but before we get to that point, are we ready to adopt this with that change?
I think it's everything that we've talked about over the last however many months, and was the changes that we were looking for made after the last meeting.
I agree.
So,
The only thing is if just people involved have time to read it over, would want to comment on it or anymore. If they've had sufficient time to see the final version or not.
The,
Make a last.
I mean, there's nothing in here that wasn't discussed openly and that basically wasn't discussed before it was sent to the city attorney for inclusion in this. But I have no, if you want to put it off a meeting, it's not going to hurt my feelings any, whatever you guys want to do.
I can't see that we really changed that much. Did anybody really get any feedback, either for or against, from anybody in the community on it from the last meeting?
I just had one that wanted less regulation. No, and then one also that wanted more regulation. So it was a 1-to-1 ratio. So, and they were both pretty extreme.
Right.
So
I've had comments, I've had emails and such, but generally they have been in the nature of, why are you siding with those folks? And just like you said, or one, why are you siding with the other folks? And I don't feel like I'm siding with anyone, I'm just trying to get a food truck ordinance adopted.
yeah.
Well, and I think what we looked at, it's not a whole lot different than what other communities have done. I mean,
Very similar to other communities.
I think we need to go forward with it, in my opinion.
You want to make a motion?
I would make a motion that,
Oh, first. I'd like to make a motion that we, in the blank that is a part of section 2, sub J, with the blank that is after applicants must provide proof they have a valid sales tax license, Kansas food service permit, and an inspection review performed by. After by, I would like to insert the language, the Marion Chief of Police, Neighborhood Services Director, or such other city officer as directed by the city administrator. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. All right, so with that then, we're to
Okay.
you, Kevin.
I would like to make a motion that we pass ordinance number 1514 with the changes that we just adopted to that for our food truck ordinance.
I'll second. Discussion?
The only question I would have is, do we know, is that ordinance number accurate, or was that just a placeholder?
Nope,
That's accurate? Okay.
And when is it taken to effect, essentially today, for the effective date?
It needs to be published,
So it won't be until it's been published for a period of time.
so does Janet fill in that date after she does the calculations on, as to the effective date? How much time do
the
we need?
effective date will be
Date of
today.
It will be today.
It just says
Upon publication.
become effective after its passage, approval, and publication one time in the Marion County Record. And then it has the,
Yeah, whatever that I would assume it'd be on the publication date.
Okay.
right.
It would be next Wednesday. then.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mayor? How qualified are the delegates?
Come on over, please. Not trying to be hard on you, but, if people are listening or watching on what's the question?
How qualified are the delegates that you're making for this food truck inspection on food ordinances, safety?
Well, they still have to pass state inspection, so the state will be inspecting them. But what we're talking about is having a local officer go out and make sure that we don't see anything we have a problem with.
Basically, they're in compliance with the ordinance that we have written.
Right.
Oh, just this ordinance, not with food safety and,
Right. Food safety would be up to the state. And for what it's worth, Heidi Getz, Food, Drug, and Lodging Surveyor 1, who actually lives in this area, I have talked with her, and she is the person that does the checking out for the Department of Health and Environment or Department of Agriculture, whatever it is. Okay? All right, I'm sorry, where were we,
Further
council?
discussion is where we're currently.
Okay, anything else? All right, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. I'm an aye. So we have passed the food truck ordinance. Janet, make sure that we change, it's not a biggie, but get that
Bold.
section
Bolded.
6 bolded too. Uh-oh. I think I wrapped my agenda into my food truck ordinance. I did. Next up is the storm siren, Mr. McInerney.
Mayor and council members, this is an item that I want to give credit to Stephen. He came up with a good idea, in my opinion. As I understand it, I'll be subject to Stephen correcting me. We currently have 7 emergency sirens in the town. 4 are many years old. I think 3 were purchased in the last 4 or 5 years. We had 1 struck by lightning. And the thought is with our insurance proceeds and an additional up to $38,000, we can go down to 5, or buy 2 new ones, and with we'll buy 2 new ones, go from 7 to 5 and cover the town. It'd be wireless and it'd be modern. I think several of what we have now are fairly old. So we think this is very important to make sure everything's up to date in our emergency sirens. So we think between the insurance check and that additional money, we can have basically a brand new system. And I'll let Stephen go through any of the details. He can.
Stephen, would you mind coming up to the hot seat, please?
I want to give him credit. I think it's a great idea, and he came up with it.
Would you maybe just piggyback off what Mark said as to what you're thinking is?
Over here on the South Valley, we had 2 tornado sirens, and they did a survey for us. And they said if the one that was struck by lightning. If we'd move it to over by the hospital, it will cover that whole area. And we already have 3 of the electrical ones right now, and all of our older ones are 25 to 30 years old, is my understanding. So he suggested that we go ahead and purchase one more, and it comes with a wireless system, and we put it out by Ann's Park. And then that will cover the business district and all of the area over there, and they'll all be wireless. And then when our old ones, we still leave our old ones in effect, but once one goes down, then we just start getting rid of them as they go down. And we won't have to replace them anymore.
So then 2 sirens then cover the whole town?
No, we'll have 5.
We
already have
of the
3.
new ones already.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
But we had 2
misunderstood that.
over on the south side, and both of those have went bad. So we can put one over somewhere right around the hospital, is where they'd like it, and that will cover the whole south side, or southeast side.
Gotcha.
And then he said the best spot for the other one, if we chose to do it, would be right around Ann's Park, because that would cover the business district and the northeast. So,
I'll just lay my ignorance out here for the public. The sirens that we have now, the new ones, I assume, are louder than the old ones?
that is correct.
And do they rotate?
Yes, they do.
Okay. I mean, I assumed that, but I never really knew for sure.
Did the older ones have battery backup, or was it just
No, they
direct?
did not. It was
So
electric
no-
only.
No power, no
And these will have
sirens?
battery backup, and they're solar charged too.
Okay.
The 2 new ones that,
When it's determined that there's a need to sound the sirens on the old ones, does someone have to come here or the police station or somewhere?
that is
and
correct. We
flip
have
a
it at the
switch?
police station and at the city building.
Okay.
And we can choose to have a keypad there or in the city building, or with the new, whoever's in charge of that can also trigger it from their phone.
And also, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, just reading through this, it looked like that it would automatically sound too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
That
with the
they
weather
have the
report.
ability to sound it
Yeah,
remotely, that we wouldn't have any
We
need to have
we
somebody
can
there.
set it up that way, yes, that is correct.
And with the current system, is there an annual membership, annual fee involved with what we currently have at all?
We have nothing right now.
Okay, it's just, we have the system, we run the
And
system, there's
that's
nothing like.
one thing they would like to come down once a year, and he's supposed to be getting me the numbers, what it would cost them just to come down and check them once a year, and if we ever have to call them back more on that, it's on them. So just so they get them, make sure everything's charging right,
Mhm,
and like a maintenance fee.
Sure.
Do you have any idea what kind of money you're talking there?
I think it was less than $2,000 a year.
Okay.
Is
It-
that
it's-
that, at the top,
It might, was it 2 or 2,200? I can't remember for sure.
1575, there's this Command 1 standard that was on this quote. I don't know if that's what
I
that
think
was
that's for the
referencing.
system. They have not gave us what the maintenance
Okay,
agreement
okay.
would be. That was just for the system, wireless system, and the upgrade.
That was the one time, not an
Right,
annual thing. Okay,
right.
that's why I was making sure that whether that was gonna be annually or if it's, they own the system, we have to pay them each year to use it
No,
or
no, no,
not?
that is
Okay,
not
we won't,
correct.
good.
Mark, do we have are you asking us to tell you whether we think this is a good idea, or are you asking us to take action?
Well, we'd like to take action. I think we could, if and once you make the order, it's about 60 days to get him, and then installation shortly thereafter. Is that correct, Stephen? Something like that.
That is correct. Because for the one, we have 120 days to get it up and going. And so we're waiting on tonight to decide if we're going to order 1 or 2.
Well, I don't think you can overstate the importance of this.
and am I right that you said I mean, this number that's on here, roughly 38,000, that would be an additional 38,000 from the one that we're replacing already
Well,
with
from
insurance money,
the
right?
one that broke, we'll receive the insurance for that.
Right,
So on
so
top
this
of
would
that-
be another one that
Yes.
would be on top of that?
That is correct.
And we have money in the budget to do it, I presume, or you wouldn't be recommending it.
Right, we'll find it, yes. It's there.
There was actually 30,000, 35,000 set in the budget for January 1st for the siren already. But that- It was approved in our budget
Okay. Well,
for 25.
Yeah. yeah,
So,
gotcha. But we're getting darn close to 25.
right, so,
Okay, other thoughts, council members?
So
Can you,
just-
sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, so just to clarify, so then from the 7 that we would have now, we would end up with 5, with 2 being brand new, and then that, I'm assuming that got rid of the ones that were 25 to 30 years old?
yes, that is correct.
So then how old are the remaining 3, I guess, approximately?
5 to 6 years.
Gotcha.
Maybe I misunderstood, because my understanding was we would continue to use the 2 old ones until such time as they just didn't work.
That is correct.
Yeah, so we'd
It'd still be
be,
using them, they just.
Yeah,
Oh.
we're not just gonna take them down and discard them, we're just gonna we'll keep using them.
Gotcha.
But then if they go away, if another one gets struck by lightning or something, we can remove it and we still have the required coverage.
That
or
is
the
correct.
coverage that they're looking for. Okay.
So then out of those 5, then there would only be 2 that are the new battery backup and wireless and all that?
No,
So-
all
Yeah,
5 of them
three.
Oh,
will be.
all 5 would be?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
currently are. It's
They're
just
gonna
the
put the
old
system, if we just choose to go this way, they're gonna update the 3 we already have with the wireless system, and they'll all 3 be,
So then all 5 would be battery backup and
yes,
all
that is correct.
not dependent on electricity?
Does this lower our insurance any if we do
Yeah.
this? I know you can't answer that.
who are you asking that
And
question
if
of?
you guys looked at it good, these are all be set on steel poles, so you won't have to worry about the poles bowing over and leaning too, so it is, I mean,
So they come put new poles and everything in
Yes,
for all
this
that?
is completely
and it's
done.
all installed, done, and everything?
yeah, the only thing we have to do is dig a hole for them and we have to help them set the pole, and then they do the rest.
Right.
This is not the kind of thing that I think we necessarily have to roll this over to another meeting on. I think that we're supposed to be making these kind of decisions. If someone wants to delay it another couple of weeks, that's fine, but I'm comfortable going forward if the rest of the council is.
I think it makes sense to me, I mean, to get us to battery backup and the ability to remotely sound alarm, I mean, I don't know, to me, it makes sense to go ahead and move forward with it.
Anyone want to make a motion?
And did you say did we determine what the cost was for that annual, I guess basically an annual inspection? Did you say it was 22?
I
or-
think
in that
he quoted,
ballpark?
he said it'd be around there is what he quoted me. And he was supposed to get that before this meeting, and then he did not get it to me, so I'll
Okay.
probably get it
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. Yeah, that's
Is
usually
that
the
an
way.
optional thing to do?
Yeah, that is, we do
That's
not have to do that, but it was just something he suggested to do a maintenance on them, and,
Right,
2,200.
yeah.
yeah.
Anything else from you, Ken?
Nope.
Kevin?
I don't think so.
I'll make a motion that we accept the city administrator's recommendation to supplement our storm warning system by purchasing a new, I'll just say a new siren, and work it into the system as has been described.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Mark, ready for your other gentleman?
Yes, last week we talked, Thomas was here to talk about an agreement with Idea Tech for services, and, Ethan?
Yes.
Okay, their legal counsel has worked with Brian on the agreement. As I understand, a pretty standard agreement, very similar to what you have with many, many cities. Couple of things I'd highlight, that there's a $10 per pole used. I don't know, I think we have 800 some odd poles. I don't know if you would use them all. That'd be an annual fee. 5% of gross revenue based on Kansas statute. And I think that's the same in most of your agreements, pretty standard. And then I'll let you explain it, $1,000 for each DAS facility installed. I don't think you'd have any at this time, but if you did, if you might explain that.
You want me to go now?
Sure.
Yeah, so there's an item in there that talks about DAS facility, it's distributed antenna system, which is the industry name for those, like a small cell. So it's a small cell site tower. You'll see them in certain cities. It's like a utility pole, has a little antenna on it to improve cell service within the town. So we used to, previous business model, when I talked about, how we sold some of our assets to Zayo, we used to install those and then lease them to Zayo Group, who leased them on to, we leased them to Verizon, and then Zayo bought those. So that was a piece of our business before. It's not something that we do today. We leave it standard in the agreement because saves us having to come back to you if that's something we were ever going to do in the future. But it basically, it's like a permit fee for every one of those that you would place in the city. It's a $1,000 fee, but it's not a part of our business. It's not something that we do today. It's in all of our franchise agreements. And the specific question of like how many of them would there be, just to kind of give you an idea, if somebody did do a small cell deployment in a city the size of Marion, there'd probably be 10 of them that would go up. But I don't see it being something that's going to happen anytime soon. So, yeah, that's what that piece relates to.
Mark and I spent some time today trying to decide what DAS was.
Yeah.
Daughters of American Sailors was the best.
Yeah. Not that. Yeah.
Did you not read the definition in the contract?
No.
It says it in there.
No.
Even I saw that.
We have a city attorney, and I vowed to let him do his job. Go ahead, Kevin. I know you've got
I
something.
do have a couple questions. So on the compensation part, when it said that the city gets 5% of your gross fees, so.
So it's gross receipts
Gross
is the
receipts,
definition, and the way, if you read the statute, and I should probably have the guy that knows the statute tell you, but the way that works is I'll let you do it, yeah. Go ahead.
So by statute, basically broadband isn't covered. That's for like 5% of gross receipts is for back when they had analog phones. With broadband, we're exempt. And so if you look in the definition of this is how we are in I think over 100 cities, somewhere around there. Broadband is just exempt based on the fact that the need for broadband is so great within Kansas. So if we have phones or analog phones, then you'd see that. Typically, cities will be like a very minimal amount, so they don't really, it doesn't really matter much. I think the basics for it is kind of what I talked with Brian about is, it's our standard franchise agreement. It's just by statute. We do it so that we can get in here and kind of provide your citizens with some fast, high-speed broadband. So anything, I should also note that any sort of payment of those gross receipts, that would be to the citizens. That wouldn't come from us. So basically not paying that, we're not passing that on to the citizens.
Gotcha. So basically that, for as far as compensation, like that 5% would maybe then amount to nothing.
It's low. It's like anybody that takes a home phone or something where we route traffic back to a phone system, which is a very small piece of what we do. So
Gotcha.
There is a number, but it's very low.
Yeah,
Okay.
and most people now have cell phones and stuff. So
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then another thing, so like on the poles, so like if we sign that agreement, then you have access to all of our utility poles?
Given that we can attach per NESC, right, like it has to meet NESC code, National Electrical Safety Code, which will work with,
But, like the one thing that came up, a few years ago, we spent all that money to do our downtown streetscape project or whatever, and there's no wires going between any of those poles. Everything's buried. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to go, surely wouldn't be able to go hang wires on our downtown
So
poles.
we're definitely not going to make a mess. Like we're going to work carefully with your power facility managers to make sure that there's nothing attached in places that you guys don't want it. So.
So we would have, or as a city, we would have final say that,
Yeah.
like, if you wanted to do that downtown, we could say no.
Yeah.
That was just my
I'm not
thought.
sure if it's clear in the agreement that you could say no, but we're absolutely not here to do that. We're going to work with these guys. We're gonna give them, we've already provided a map of everywhere that we intend to attach, and what we expect to get is a markup, like, hey, not here, you know, here, this is fine, here, you're gonna have to bury, and then we'll adjust the map.
I think when he's saying the NESC, I'm guessing that those light poles that were installed downtown don't meet those,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
don't meet that requirement.
Okay, gotcha.
Last time you were here, we talked about areas that have the utilities underground, and kind of what you said, as I understood it, was if you're in an area where you're getting all your stuff off of poles, you're gonna be on poles. If it's underground, you're gonna be underground.
Yeah, that's the goal. You know, that's kind of a specific example that may occur, right, where you guys have some utility poles where the attachments are low enough to ground or high enough to the electrical facility that there isn't any space to attach, and then we may go underground even though there's poles there. But the goal is to try and utilize as much of your power facility as possible. So,
Where I was going with that is, there's obviously power to all those poles in the downtown area. So were you involved in that project? Okay. Well, but I'm assuming that there's underground power going through there.
All Main Street's fed from the alleys.
Yeah.
Fed from the alley. So they could go the same way, right? Yeah, okay.
And then like to each house or business that goes with your service, then is there actual fiber cable like to each house, or is that like from, let's say if I did it at my house, does that come in from an antenna on a pole to my house, or is there actual fiber going hooked to my house?
It's fiber into the home, but we don't install the drop. We call that the drop from the main line to the house. We don't install that until somebody selects to have service, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're not
Okay.
gonna come bury a line on everybody's
Sure, but
property.
anybody that would go with that service then would actually have
Yeah.
a fiber
Yeah,
cable to
and
their house.
And again, we try and follow power, right? So if you have a power electrical drop from the pole, we're gonna do electrical drop from the pole, just like
To a
power. And if
standoff.
it's underground, we're gonna bury it. So
Okay, okay.
the easiest way to kind of describe how we're gonna do that, we always intend to follow power.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a kind of a dumb question, but if someone chose or asked to have it buried just because they don't want another line, I'm assuming it probably would be at their expense, but is that something that you would do?
Yeah, we typically don't charge anything for that either. You know, if somebody wants it buried from the pole to the house, we're not gonna do that. You know, sometimes we'll wanna check with the utility and make sure they're okay to have a riser, right? Because we gotta come down the pole before we get in the ground, so,
Okay.
you know, we'll manage that. But, yeah, it's feasible.
Tim?
Covered most of the questions I had.
Stephen? I know you just lit light up when I asked you to come over here, but would you mind coming over here? Do you have the handheld?
Yeah.
Yeah, here, you guys can stay there.
Okay.
Make sure it's working. We got a green light? Just several references have been made to what you're kind of in charge of, as I understand our organizational structure. Any red lights that you are seeing, any concerns you have, any questions you have?
No, I've been in contact with them, and everything looks like it's going to be fine.
Questions of Stephen? Oh, sorry, I made you even put the mic on.
You're fine.
So, Mark, what is your recommendation, or do you have a recommendation?
Mentioned with Brian's working with their legal counsel, we recommend it's approved.
I guess we should speak to that. Yeah, Brian did
Absolutely.
review it, and he had mentioned to me that he had talked probably to you,
That's correct.
and he is not voicing any concerns. Is that
One other
correct?
thing I was just also gonna say was, it won't conflict with any other franchise agreement we currently are in with any other companies that you've known of.
No, not that we're aware. My understanding, if we have, based on the poll, the law says
Yeah.
we need to offer it.
Okay.
But I think you have several in town right now, don't you? I think you have a couple that I'm aware of.
Franchise agreements.
Providers,
Oh, yeah, providers.
yeah.
For other services.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, council members? Do we have a motion?
I move we enter into a franchise agreement with Idea Tech. I guess through ordinance number 1515. As outlined in the ordinance.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Collett seconds. Further discussion? No discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you very much,
gentlemen.
gentlemen.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Look forward to,
We'll come back and give you an update when we're further along in the project and let you
Okay.
know how everything's going, so.
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, back to you with regard to a truck.
Okay. It's my understanding that the city talked for at least a year or so about to do a one-ton pickup for the Public Works Utility Department. It'd be used to haul the heavy equipment, sewer vac, skid loader, trailer, electric wire spools, and similar items. It probably would not be used for any daily transportation. The Public Works folks have located one over in Hillsborough. It's a new truck, approximately 52439. It had to put a flatbed on it, I believe, for about $6,000. So, you know, just under $60,000, you have access to one. You know, we've tried to look at used trucks also. My understanding, talking to a couple guys in the business, they're hard to find also. So, we wanted to bring this up for your discussion tonight. I think you've talked about it before, but, and Tim's here to answer any of the detailed questions on it.
Mark, the new one's at you said over at Hillsborough, at Midway Motors.
Yes.
right?
Well, no, I think it's a Hillsborough Ford.
Hillsborough Ford?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It would be a 224 F-Series SD. And it's a gasoline, not a diesel. Tim, you got anything you'd like to?
Yeah, you gotta come up to the
Hot
table
seat.
of truth. So, how do you want to do this, council members? Do you want to ask Tim some questions about it? You want Tim to tell you why he thinks this is the right truck, or what are your thoughts?
Either one.
Why don't you go ahead and start it, and I'm sure there'll be questions.
Okay, what do you want to know? I'm not prepared for this.
I'll ask.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll
Well,
ask.
I don't have any of my information.
I can ask some questions though.
Yeah, I mean,
What is
it's-
currently our biggest truck that we would have to pull a load down the road, a heavy load on a trailer, you know, skid steers and trailers and our sewer vac?
Well, right now, we have 1 3/4 ton pickup, which is the sewer department truck, 2-wheel drive. That's what we kinda gotta steal from Frank when we need to go do stuff all the time, and, otherwise, all we have is half tons, which they're, with the hydrovac, it's well over its limits, you know,
Still
really.
capacity, yeah.
Yeah, it's pushing it pretty hard, and, I don't know if it's really safe, to be quite honest.
Well, I didn't know if we tow much equipment down the road, say doing service work in other towns, that way we're actually going down the highway with equipment. Do we tow those ourselves, or do we have someone, like for instance, a skid steer, or something like that, if it's gotta go out of town?
Yeah,
Are we overweight on our current trucks, was my question.
I would never go out of town with that on there, yeah.
It wouldn't be feasible, it wouldn't be wise to do that.
No, if we have to haul something, I have contract hauler come in.
do we need a 1 ton? Would a 3/4 ton do the trick?
Yes.
What difference does it, and I'm not asking because I have an agenda, I'm just needing to try to understand. 2-wheel drive versus 4-wheel drive, does that make a difference on what you're gonna be doing with it?
Oh, yes and no. I think your 4-wheel drive has a little heavier suspension all the way around, better handleability. Reason we went with 4-wheel drive is just getting in places, traction, getting in and out. If it's muddy, like sometimes we do get stuck in muddy places we have to get to. That's kind of the main reason.
How often do you guys, I know that hydrovac trailer's heavy, I think we use that, you guys use that quite a bit.
We use it a lot.
As far as the skid loader, how often are we trailering that? around town? Or-
0 right now. We drive it
Okay.
everywhere.
Do we have a trailer to haul the skid loader on?
It's not wide enough. We have to get a trailer in time to,
Okay.
which in turn will be a bigger trailer, which will be more weight yet, so.
That's why we currently have to contract someone if we have to take it somewhere.
Yeah, if I have to take it, which it's deer, so
So it doesn't usually have to go very
if
far.
they have to, they can pick it up if it's like broke down on the spot, but we haven't had that happen.
Do we have other equipment like that that we do have to ever take anywhere?
Ditch witch, we have a trencher, that would have to go to Wichita, which we haven't had to yet, hopefully not. But it's, we're talking like the skid loader is probably close to 13,000 pounds itself with an attachment. The ditch witch is all that, and I think, I don't know what a half ton is actually rated gross anyway. It might be like 10,000, so you got a trailer, so, that's why we're looking at it.
How often right now would you say, like times a week, are you towing, let's say that hydrovac's probably the thing you're using the most right now, twice a week?
Well, it kind of depends. Sometimes it's nothing during 1 week.
Yeah.
We might have it out 3 times 1 week. It's sporadic. I don't, there's really no set time,
Yeah.
Between everything, skid loader, if we hauled it like we should, instead of driving it clear uptown or wherever, probably 1 to 2 times a week with something we
Yeah.
would be moving, yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt that we need something heavier than a half-ton truck. My personal opinion is, looking at $60,000 for a brand new truck, that's a lot of cash. I had done some looking around just quickly. There's a dealership over in McPherson that kind of specializes, I don't know if you've looked at them at all or if anybody has, but they kind of keep a lot of those kind of service trucks around 3/4 tons, 1 tons. They've got some used ones over there. I don't know. Part of me wondered, would we not be better, if we're going to spend, let's say, $60,000, would we not be better to try and find maybe 2 trucks that are both 3/4 ton for around that same price that are used? Because we do kind of have a hodgepodge of pickups down at the shop right now.
To retire a few that are pretty old.
Yeah.
And you said you think a 3/4 ton would cover it as far as towing?
1 ton would be better for the 2, honestly. I think 3/4 would do it, but 1 ton is a little heavier yet.
Right.
Mark, tell me if I'm wrong, but, obviously, if there's a truck for sale somewhere, somebody can come in tomorrow and buy it, and then it's gone. But there's not an emergency or any kind of a situation that forces us to take action tonight. Is that correct?
Just a chance it could be sold, as you mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
You heard what Zach said. I assume you're willing to share your information with
On-
Mark.
Where, at the?
Yeah, where you got that
Yeah.
that you were looking at.
Yeah.
Whatever. Could we table this and, over to next meeting? Well, I don't think we'd even need to table it. Can we just take no action tonight and, revisit this, after you've communicated with Mark with some of your concerns?
That's fine.
Is that okay with you two?
Yes.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to the next thing under the agenda for you, Mark, which is cemetery wall.
Tim, stay right there, Casey. As you all know, we had a section of the wall on the south side of the cemetery fall down. Finding contractors is hard, and we've received several proposals. We think the best one, and actually the lowest, is one from Professional Stone Masons out of Strong City for $26,720. And if my understanding, they could probably do the job within 30 days, which is really important. Other people would try to work into their schedules when they get an opening. And I ran it by Darren, he thought that was a good proposal. It's, everybody kind of comes at it from a different way, and I don't know if Tim has anything in particular. We do think in the future, we may want to, you know, maybe, this is down the road, waterproof the top of that somehow, the caps on the stone, for this is to get that wall fixed.
I'm assuming it was the footing that kind of gave out, or was there
Yeah,
not a
it's
footing
the
under?
water getting in the top, freezing and thawing,
Freeze thaw.
it's pushing it out. That's why he recommended waterproofing the rest of it after we get this fixed.
But that part's not in the bid.
No,
Gotcha. Do we know how much more that would cost to do?
he didn't give me a bid on that.
There was two bids, and the second one had given a distance they were gonna do, but the first one that we're discussing now didn't have a distance, it just has a quantity. So I'm assuming it's replacing everything that was damaged.
Yeah.
Was it to that point, or was there the next
Well,
section
there
need
was
more
an-
attention to?
There was another bulge that they was gonna fix. It skipped a little bit, and then there was another bulge in the wall, and he was gonna get that. Both of them are, I believe,
Okay.
yeah. I pointed it out to both of them, so.
I thought that the fact that it happened was concerning, because if it happened on that end of the wall, why did we think it wouldn't happen on some other part of the wall? But we need to fix what's down, and then I would certainly entertain a bid to take a look at trying to
Right.
prevent more damage down
That's
the
the
road.
plan. I'd like to, if that's, you know, what causing it, what she says it is, water getting in the top, and we need to fix the rest of the problem before it gets worse
Before it goes.
eventually, or.
I would agree.
26,720, right?
Correct.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
Are there thoughts or a motion?
How long is that bid good for, or is it pretty much like,
I think it's still good as of now, I mean, yeah.
it was done on September 26th.
You talked to the gentleman the other day.
Yeah, I talked to him the other day, and I think he never said it was not good yet.
We had never gotten hadn't close to that price, hadn't everything been substantially more?
Mhm.
I don't think there's any other good options. I mean, you brought up, right, maybe putting a chain link fence or something in there, but it's not a good option.
That's an option, not a good one.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
No.
Does anybody have any history with that company, or know any, or do they do good work? And
Some people said they do good work, I don't know who, but I don't remember. Someone had mentioned something that they do good work, but this guy is just a knockoff of, I believe, of Coke, Stone and Masonry. He worked for him for 20 years, he's doing it his
so
own
he
now.
does at least know what he's doing,
Yeah.
hopefully.
They had, on the website, they had pictures of what they've done, and I mean, it does, actually, this guy has got 2 jobs. One's the museum at Hillsborough, I believe, here, coming up. He's got a year's worth of work right here, and then a barn restructure. So he'll be right around here close, he said, for the
And we
next year.
can call a reference or two
Yeah, I
prior
can
to,
check it.
you can make that part of your motion if you
Make
choose.
sure that the reference is clear.
Might not hurt.
Well, the stone fence that's along there now, wall that's along there now is attractive. And I think the idea of, I don't know, if we'd fill the gap with something else, or if we would take down the whole thing, but that's not
The
really.
stone's beautiful.
Yeah,
It
that's,
did look nice.
I think the only real option is to fix it. Well, I'm willing, if there's no further discussion, I will move that we direct Mark to obtain references with regard to this particular vendor, and unless he sees red flags, in which case he should bring it back to the council, but otherwise that we authorize him to go forward and contract with this gentleman to do the work. $26,720.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Mark?
Next item is just a retailer's license for medicine cabinet liquor store. My understanding, Cody and Libby Nelson are purchasing D&J Liquor, and we'll rename it Medicine Cabinet Liquor LLC. And they need to purchase the attached retailer's license, and we recommend approval. Is there anything to add to that, Janet?
Council?
Just for clarification on this one, we are not approving the license itself. It still goes to the state.
Right.
We are acknowledging that they are
Correct.
applying for
Yeah.
the license, right?
Correct,
Okay.
And, well, and that they're within an area that's properly zoned
Right,
for it,
yes.
and,
correct.
yeah. So,
It's
Mark,
gonna be in the same location, it's not changing the location of it, correct?
when I first saw this, I didn't realize that they had purchased D&J, and all I could think of was that building that's just to the east of
Yeah.
D&J. I thought, well, that's gonna be really weird, having
Yeah.
two liquor stores
I thought the same
side
thing.
by side.
Well, another ordinance.
So what action do you want from us? Just directing the clerk to respond or send this on to the state
Correct.
with the proper information on it?
Yes.
You want that by motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll move that we direct the clerk to respond, or to notify the state of the compliance that this particular application, well, gosh, guys, I'm trying to think of how to word it. I think we should direct the clerk to provide the information as requested by the state.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Mr. Masters?
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Good evening to you. First of all, are you pleased to know that you have achieved even more power after our action here today?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it'd be too much extra. I mean,
Well, we think you can handle it.
yeah, I think I can too. So I've been doing dangerous structures and blighted structures for about 8.5 years now. And so I just kind of wanted to bring this to you. Some of you have been through this here already with me. It's the process, according to our city code, that we have for dangerous structures. The process can be quite lengthy from the time that a structure is identified as a dangerous structure to the time that it can be demoed. And sometimes if we have to go through the whole process as a city, step by step, through all the hearings and giving them time and busings and things, so it can take up to a year to get a structure down once it's been identified. Once a structure is identified, I will notify the owner of the structure, and I typically like to give them 45 to 60 days before I come to the council, and I just let them know that I'm bringing this to the council, giving a report, a dangerous structures report to you all, and they're going to ask for a resolution to set a hearing on a show cause to save this structure, whether it can be repaired or it needs to be demoed. That gives them some time before the actual meeting takes place for the resolution, and sometimes these structures will be down already, and it won't be necessary to draw up a resolution. But in the cases that those that are not down or repaired in that time frame, the city council, you all will vote or dismiss, but you will vote on a resolution to hold a hearing date. And this hearing date will be a time where the owner of the structure can come in and present his side of the story, and the city will present their side of the story concerning that structure. Typically, the resolution date is set out 60 days or plus to the hearing date. There's some time that once the city's voted on, once the council's voted on a resolution, there needs to be a title search done. And then once the title search is done, notice has to be published in the newspaper twice. And in between the publishing and consecutively, 1 week back to back, it has to be published in the newspaper. And in between the publishings, the notices to all those interested parties in that structure have to be notified by certified mail. Okay, and at any time during this process, they could still get to that center part and demo it, and it would be just, we would not have to have that hearing. At the hearing, which is number 7 there, each one of the triangles or decision things, the rectangles are process, but the council will have to make a decision at the hearing on whether to dismiss, order it repaired, or order it demolished. And then the orders are mailed out, and if the demolition or repairs does not take place, the council can set another date to have it completed or proceed right to demolition asking for bids. Which brings us to step number 11. There'll be bids sent out if the city is not ordered to demo it themselves, if you don't have the public works demo it. And then we have step number 12, the council can accept or deny bids, but eventually we'll get to the center part of it's either made safe or demoed. Any questions on this here? I just wanted to, bring this to you to kind of explain the process, because I believe we're getting ready to go into doing some of this here real soon. And before I start bringing structures into y'all, kind of would like to share the process with you, kind of break it down.
Comments, questions?
Thank you for doing that. It's good to kind of know that process before we know what we're getting into as we go through the process, so that's helpful to see that.
I don't have anything. Thanks, James.
Yeah, I agree, James, that, and I'm gonna call you Jim on occasion, because I know you're
that's
dad,
fine.
but, I just think it's really helpful if you do this sort of thing, and as you go forward, don't hesitate to, continue to educate us about stuff like this.
Yes, and I, and I hope the public understands that once a structure is selected, it's not going to be down the next week. It can take quite some time sometimes, or, some people are, and I have found this with this community, versus other communities, are very proactive, and they just go ahead, okay, I'll get my structure taken care of, and that's been really nice about this community.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario, right?
It is the best case scenario, yes. We never even get to the resolution, drawing up the resolution.
Is that all you had?
Yeah, I got a department head report here afterwards.
Well, stay right there. We're gonna, well, no, you better leave, because somebody may want to take your chair. Public forum, anyone wishing to address the council on anything? Know what, Mike? I knew I waited too long and you'd get up there. Come on up, just take a seat.
I'll let you know when your 5 minutes are close.
Well, listening to your truck purchase, if you don't get a trailer with it, I think you're barking up the wrong tree, so you would have to about do both at the same time, in my opinion. Maybe a used truck and maybe you could find a combo out there, already hooked up, wired up, be something to look at before you. And I guess the last is, let's pray to God there's no riots after tomorrow night throughout the country and throughout the nation. I thank for everybody's support that voted for me, or voted, just mainly that they voted, so That's the last I got to say.
Before you leave, Mike, I just want to, you don't happen to have a 1-ton truck with a trailer that you're pitching us here, do you?
I got more than one.
Well, talk to Mark.
I got a semi with a hydraulic down ramp sitting there.
We maybe can do some business, you gotta deal with him.
And I guess if you mowed out around the outside perimeter of the fence there at the Marion sign there in the corner of town,
You could, Tim left, I would just tell Tim.
hopefully you'll keep that mowed from here on out.
That's-
I kinda question why it got that shape
That
this
was,
summer.
that is the plan, I thought it looked great, and I told Tim that earlier today.
Well, it makes sense that you make that as visible as it needs to be.
Yeah. All right, thank you,
Party
sir.
on.
Party on. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Margot, we'll start with Margot as we normally do on our department head reports.
Yeah, it was a busy Monday. It was kind of crazy a day, but a couple of the interesting things. I had a group call from Woodward, Oklahoma, from a Christian school looking for lodging for 30 at the lake. And they were hoping we had little cabins, which we don't. And so I called Isaac Hitt, who's great, and he helped me put together a list of all the Airbnbs out there. And so we sent him that and hoping that works for them. And they'll come in a couple weeks. And they're on their way to Wisely and just wanted to stay in Marion. So, and then I had a gal call that wants to do an article about our rhinos for Kansas Magazine. And so I spent quite a bit of time on the phone with her and gathered everything I had and sent it to her. And so we'll look for that to come out. So a couple of interesting things today. A lot of people calling to book the building. It's just busy. So if you guys got questions.
No question.
Okay.
Okay. So this is October 6th to the November 4th Department Head Report for Neighborhood Services Director. There was 79 inspections. I had no complaints. 4 grass inspections with 1 cut order issued. I wrote 14 city code violations. 7 for yard and automobiles, and 7 for various violations such as yards, fences, dead, dangerous trees, no building permit, and encroaching on an alley. Municipal court, we have 2 abatements that have been ordered with a 60-day stay. There'll be a 30-day review on that, and I believe these items will be cleaned up before the 30-day review. So we won't have any action on those either. Building permits, issued 4 permits with 30 inspections. The North Coble project, Lang Real Estate with the 4-house project. 416 North Coble and 418 North Coble. The rough-in inspections are complete and the sheetrock is being hung in those 2 houses. 412 framework has started, and 414 North Coble, the framework is completed, but still waiting to be inspected on that one. 428 through 434 East Forest Street are the 2 more duplexes that are being built. Owner David Pyle, and the rough-in on 1 duplex, the roof on 1 of the duplexes completed, so he's got it in the dry now. And the second roof is being framed up, so they're just about done with the trusses on the second one. 1220 East Main Street, Marion County Health Department, contractor NF Construction. Most of the rock facade has been completed. I thought it looked really good. The rough-in inspection on electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and the frame has been completed. They are now soundproofing and sheetrocking is being done on the inside. So,
Thank you.
Any questions?
Were you working with planning and zoning on stuff, maybe about a camper ordinance or something? Did I see something in their minutes? Something was discussed about campers
Yes.
in town?
Yes. In fact, I had a complaint today on someone living in a camper. The zoning code right now, we've done the research on it. You can live in a camper temporarily, 5 foot off the sidewalk. So there's no definition of what temporary is. Kind of bad that, your house has to be 25 feet from the sidewalk, but your camper can be 5 foot off the sidewalk. So I have looked at some other towns' ordinances and things like that there, and I have come up with something that, looks pretty reasonable. Working with the city of Harrington, we had the same issues up there with people living in campers and wanting to park them out in their front yard. But it's more of a recreational type thing, because it will include boats and things like that in the ordinance also. But they wanted you guys' blessing on this, whether there's an interest from the council concerning this. If there's not, then they probably don't really want them to do much with this, But they seemed very positive at the last meeting.
Will you be coming back to us then with some ideas about what might be
So if
done?
they want to give a recommendation, I will bring it back.
Okay,
And I'll bring it back and give it to Brian.
good.
And so an ordinance can be drawn up, and then you guys can look at it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that something y'all would be in favor of looking at?
I've had a few community members say something to me about campers being like where they're parked and how long they're parked.
I
I
have
haven't
troubles
had-
with people living in them, too.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. That's the main reason. And then maybe for the occasional one that wants to park out in the very front yard,
My thought, and you and I have talked about this a little bit already, but my thought is that it would just depend on what we would be enacting. If someone uses their camper as their guest bedroom when the grandkids come to visit twice a year, I don't know that I'm interested in stopping them from doing that. But if they're parking the camper in the front yard and, moving Uncle Elmer in there forever,
Cousin Eddie.
Cousin Eddie, or Uncle Elmer, either way. And, it's only temporary, well, how long is it gonna be? Just till he dies.
So there's a provision in there for just what you're talking about, and there is a certain amount of days that it's allowed for and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'd be interested in at least talking about it.
Okay.
Anyone got a?
Nothing for the police department.
Okay, good answer. Well, we're looking at the time. We got a football game coming.
Kickoff's in an hour.
Stephen, you got anything more you want to add to the fine job you did earlier?
Oh, we had a busy week. We did crack sealing as much as we could when we had the machine. And then at the end of last week, we got in contact with Marion Fixture out here on the business district, and they had 2 platforms that were about ready to fall over. So we coordinated with them and worked Thursday night, Friday night, and then ended up had to work Sunday because it rained Saturday to get them all completed. So it's been a busy couple weeks for us.
Mark was telling me about that today, and he and I were in agreement that I'm just really, really pleased that it would be very easy for you and your department to say, well, we work Monday through Friday, and but the fact that you worked with them to allow them to keep operating to the extent they could and still get things fixed up, I mean, that's the kind of public-private cooperation that you ought to have in a small town. So
I agree with you. And
I
they're
would say
really
kudos
understanding.
to you, or as former chief head coach, and I can't remember his name, Caduce.
To-dos.
Yeah.
Romeo Cornell.
Romeo Cornell, that's who it was, yeah. So, good job.
All right, thank you.
Janet?
No.
No hesitation there, was it?
Anything else from you, Mark?
Only thing, as you probably noticed, the water tower is being worked on. I think we're still waiting maybe a day or two for the inside to be painted secure, and that based on, as I understand, it takes 2 or 3 weeks, based on temperature, humidity, some different factors. They'll certify, and then we need to disinfect the bowl and put water in it. So we're pretty close. I think it looks very nice.
I think it looks great.
Yeah.
My kids came, they had a surprise birthday party for me yesterday, even though it's not my birthday till another week, but that's part of the surprise, I guess. But they showed up at my house, and I asked every one of them, did they come into town on Eisenhower Drive, because I was hoping they saw the water tower, because I think it looks great. So, okay, thank you. To you, sir.
The hospital had a really nice foundation or their fundraising dinner upstairs this weekend. It was a really nice event. I do think that, to your point, I want to do a walk at some point in this building and look at things that are needing upkeep or look at.
Spring.
Yeah.
Spring. That's my hope, is that we'll be able to do something fairly formal, publicized, guides to walk people through the building. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Kevin?
Nothing else.
2 things. One is I was coming into town and I noticed on Highway 77 and 256, half the Marion sign must have blown off or something. So I'm assuming you're on top of that and keeping that fixed up. The second thing is behind the Marion County Transfer Station on Washington Street, right across the train tracks, there's an old kind of not really a bridge, just an overpass over just a drain washout. That's an old lumber, wooden planks that cross a little underpass that's in pretty rough shape. That might be something to take a look at before it gets undrivable almost.
We've looked at it, and it's got a huge layer of extra, about 2 foot of sturdy wood underneath it.
Does it?
And we've been in contact with the railroad, because they're saying it's ours, and we say it's theirs, so it's been
That was one of my questions. It's so close to the railroad, I didn't know if it's even our responsibility, if it's on there right away. So,
Is it used? I mean, do we?
Yeah, it's one you drive over every time.
semis go over it. It's a big thing. But if you say it's safe, then I feel better now driving over it.
We got out there and looked at it too, and this has been going back and forth with them for probably a year, over.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
If you're on it, that was my concern,
trying.
so.
Hopefully it
Got
doesn't.
a 2 more year wait.
Just say, you're on the railroad's time. They'll get back to you when they get back to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd just be nice if they tell us that we own it or they own it, that we're both, just keep fighting back and forth, so.
So if James puts it on the dangerous structure list, he knows who.
Someone has to take action then.
Margot was sounding the alarm on that sign, and to Mark and I don't really want to put any money into replacing those signs. I'd rather we have some conversations, and Mark and I talked about that a bit today, about signs and what's most effective use of them. And Mark was suggesting that some would say that they're not effective at all, and whatever money you put into them should be put into internet publication of information. But I don't know if I totally agree with that, but I don't want to replace that particular sign. It's not unattractive, but it's just too busy. There's no way you can drive down the road and really tell what it's saying, in my opinion. Okay. Anything else from anyone? No? Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move we adjourn this meeting.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. See everyone November 18 at 5.
We're gonna do media, 5-minute meeting. So my computer's been trying to restart this entire meeting since you said that. I keep having to move the thing out of what I'm trying to read. It keeps putting in front of me saying, you cannot postpone this anymore.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because mine's been working fine ever since.
Now I can restart it.
I'll let you to come back.
Exactly.
Excuse me, sorry.
Mike, are you coming in the morning to sign checks?
No.
Okay, you wanna sign these ordinances and that were passed tonight?
Yeah, we could do that, I could do that.
Once I have that, I'm good.
So do you want me to use your stamp then? I'm asking permission.
Yeah, that'd be okay, because I've got to be in Junction City tomorrow.
Where you're at on everything. Yep.
There is the.
Thanks, James.
Yep, thank you.
Which other one did we pass? You passed, not me.
Restarted.
I did have.
7%.
And here's the minutes. I did.
You're gonna fill that date in, right?
Yeah.
Did you get the other stuff back, the stuff that went down the
Yes.
aisle?
Kevin gave it
Well, I
back.
would agree with them, signs need to be as simple as they can and be read at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can get too much on
Oh,
Well, I don't know.
Or
There-
sometimes
there
they look good in a
There would
picture.
be no reason to have them read at 70 miles an hour, that's above the speed limit.
64.8.
You're right, the signs are way too busy.
Yeah, too busy.
We made some a few years ago, and I argued that point, we got one down that just had one in town on it, which really, it's not an advertising sign, it's a directional sign. It's saying, here's where you turn to go to Marion. Right.
Oh,
I was gonna
and
say-
the
So all it really needs to say is Marion.
the one on I-70 going west, past Junction City, it says enterprise.com, and it's on a 20-some by 15.
You're gonna fill in the date.
That's all it says.
If you go out to Remington
Thank you
Road,
very much.
the Pilsen sign and the Marion sign. You can read the Pilsen sign, you can't read the Marion
Even though the Pilsen sign's getting pretty faded.
sign. The Pilsen sign is smaller, but it has, the word Pilsen is bigger.
A sign that just said the name of the town, you talk about minimalist, that's
Well,
minimalist.
that's what Hillsborough is. Most of Hillsborough signs just say
Well,
Hillsborough.
especially in today's world, that enterprise.com is all it says,
one
and
down
it's
on-
on a humongous.
The one down at the 13 Mile Road, I think, just says Hillsborough. And there's one also on 50 over at Elmdale, 150,
Yeah.
that I think also just says Hillsborough. They're bigger too.
We have a rhino pointing Marion that way to catch every.
I'm gonna tell you, when those signs said, they used to say, Rhino capital of Kansas, people, I had many people that would come in from out of town, or go to court or whatever, would ask about that. Really did.
One of my generation took away the Marion, the city between two lakes, and they took them down.
Yeah.
I thought they did more good than what we replaced them with, that's all.
Well, we're gonna,
But again, you don't have a contest to make the next
Well,
one.
we had the best place I've seen for a while too.
Yeah.
Stone City, and
well, that's what,
we need to bring a brand.
Jerry Harris used to say that the best place I've seen motto came from a blind guy. But
Wait,
There's hope for everybody, right?
I gotta stay here till the stupid thing updates.
So they have a good turnout, Zach, at the hospital thing?
200 people.
Wow. Like, we were,
It was
packed.
packed.
That, and like I said, my nephew got married Friday, then we're down in Texas, so.
Kerry counted it up today, and before expenses, they raised like $30,000.
Nice.
It was very big
It
turnout.
was fun, and they had she'd gotten this year, they got I don't even know what you call it, big band, or had a live band that played music and had a